Welcome to Is It Me or ADHD? If you ever felt like you're the problem, like you just can't get it together no matter how hard you try, this podcast is for you. We're here to de-shame, decondition, and rebuild the way you see yourself so you can finally learn how to thrive with your ADHD brain. Welcome to episode 1 of the Is It Me or ADHD podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about my journey to diagnosis, my symptoms before I was even questioning ADHD, the emotional impact, the fact that I was unable to medicate, what actually helped me, and the moment things started to shift. It was a messy journey, as I'm sure we've all had a messy journey. There is no tidy journey with ADHD. But it's funny, I think, because I didn't consider ADHD until I did. I was actually one of those people who thought that ADHD was just something we labeled naughty kids. They just needed to behave themselves. They needed to eat more healthily. People just didn't want to accept normal children's behavior. And that was back when we thought it was the naughty boys condition. When I was at school, girls weren't really known to have ADHD. It wasn't a thing. I'm 35, so anybody who's roughly my age or older will know that girls with ADHD were pretty much unheard of. So I was about 24, I think it was, when life just felt like it was starting to fall apart. No, I've never exactly been an organized type of person. I've never been someone who followed the same path as other people, always been a bit different. I've always felt very different. I felt very lonely growing up. But it wasn't until I had my third child, which is really common for women with ADHD, I will get into that in a second, that things really started falling apart. My house was a wreck to the extent that it was just so embarrassing. I couldn't keep my temper. I was screaming at the kids all the time. My moods were up and down. Like on an hourly basis, I could be really high and then feeling really low. It was really erratic. And I remember my partner would say to me, like, I don't know what I'm going to get from you from day to day. You're a different person from day to day. Initially, I thought I had bipolar. I was really frightened, actually. I was forgetting whole conversations. So I thought maybe I had Alzheimer's really early. It was a really actually quite terrifying time. I was falling out with family members. Everything was just falling apart. So I did a bit of research on bipolar and discovered that the moods don't actually cycle as quickly. It tends to be a course of months that you're either high or low. There are different types, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on bipolar, so I can't really give you much more than that. But it was just enough for me to understand that wasn't what was going on with me. A friend of mine was diagnosed with ADHD shortly before me, and I started talking to her about everything I was going through. And she was like, it really does sound like that's what's going on for you. A little bit of extra detail here. Like I said, I'd had my third child. He was always ADHD, but he's ADHD. He didn't sleep. He woke up hourly for 2 years. So obviously that was extremely depleting. That would screw anybody up. But when you add undiagnosed ADHD to the list, it really does just make everything fall apart. So what I want to point out now, if you're a woman questioning ADHD, there is something called the tipping point. And this is when our life's responsibilities pile up to the extent that the coping mechanisms we've unconsciously developed throughout our lives stop working for us anymore. So it could be your first child, it could be a promotion at work, it could be starting a business, it could be getting married or buying a house, or any kind of major life transition is a really common time for ADHD women to start questioning, what the fuck is wrong with me? It's also really common in perimenopause because as our estrogen and progesterone begin to decline, those are responsible for brain function and mood and things. We tend to start noticing a real decline in our cognitive function around that time. So, yeah, those are really common times for women to start questioning what's going on, and our lives just seem to fall apart. So if you are currently an undiagnosed woman, then that's just something to help you understand what might be happening, that you thought you were fine before and suddenly you're not. The emotional impact was huge. I fell out with my mum. I fell out with my brother. My relationship was falling apart. I wasn't being the mum I wanted to be. Honestly, it really did feel like rock bottom, to be honest with you. I was ashamed of not being able to keep on top of housework. Our cats got fleas at one point, and I just kept meaning to get treatment and kept not doing it. And I was really embarrassed and ashamed about that too. And my kids were getting bitten. And it was just this, honestly, just such a shameful time in my life. I didn't understand why I couldn't just do the things. Like, why couldn't I just keep my house clean and be a patient mum and treat the cat's fleas? And they were in the house, and there was visible fleas, and it was genuinely such an embarrassing time. I didn't want anybody to come to the house. This is probably a really common story. Us women, especially, we're under so much pressure to be a good housewife and keep a clean home and be a good mum and go to work and keep up with all these expectations that society has for us. And it's impossible when you've got ADHD. So in future episodes, we are going to be talking about how to function at your best without the expectations of society and, excuse me, without trying to be more neurotypical. But that is for another episode. So I went to the doctor and I spoke to them about it. I was expecting to be dismissed, to be honest with you, because women so often are dismissed. But they did refer me, which was great. And this was before the kind of boom in realizations for a lot of people having ADHD. So I was really lucky that I was seen quite quickly and I was diagnosed over a couple of sessions. But that wasn't an easy process either. I had a psychiatrist who I don't think really believed in ADHD. He diagnosed me based off of the checklist. I'm pretty sure it was the DSM-5 at the time. Still, I can't remember when that came into effect. And he asked me questions about my childhood and things like they do. But he was not very empathetic, not very compassionate. He accused me of being a product of my generation, told me I needed to put my phone down, spend more time with my fiance, stop breastfeeding my son, which was way overstepping. It was not an empowering situation at all. It was actually a really horrible experience. And after our second appointment where we finalized the diagnosis, because I was breastfeeding at the time, I couldn't take medication. And so I'd asked him if I could have some sessions to help me with coping skills. I didn't have the language to really know what I was asking for at the time, but I knew I needed help. What I realized now I was asking for was help with my executive function so that I could function better. And he said, no, I'm discharging you. Try mindfulness. And it essentially shoved me out the door. Like, he didn't touch me, but he basically stood up, hands out in front of him, and steered me out of his room. That was it. I was left to cope on my own, which after the year I'd already had was devastating. And the year that would come was also devastating. I left and just cried. I didn't know what to do. All I wanted to do was take medication. I just wanted to function. I really hated myself. I just felt like such a failure. And so I went home and cried. But it really gave me a kick up the arse, to be honest with you, because I realized that if I was not going to be helped by anybody else, I was going to have to help myself. So at that point in time, I was already really into nutrition. For those of you who don't know me, I am a nutrition and fitness coach. I have a certificate of higher education in nutritional therapy. I'm a gym instructor, and I'm currently working on a women's coaching specialist certification. So a bit of a side note there. But I was already really into nutrition at the time, and I knew from experience how powerful it was at improving your health. I had already managed to lose weight relatively easily with the right nutrition. I'd been able to manage my PCOS and get pregnant after struggling for 3 years, improving my energy levels and things. So I really knew that there was a lot of power in changing my nutrition. So I threw myself into researching nutrition for brain health. And that led me down the rabbit hole. And I discovered books like Grain Brain by David Perlmutter. I looked into keto and paleo, which I was already doing, and all these different nutrition protocols that I could use to help with my brain function. I started practicing yoga every day at 6 a.m. I was up practicing yoga with the sunrise. I was prioritizing sleep as much as possible with a toddler who does not sleep. I really just threw myself into it. I did a lot of self-help books that weren't just for ADHD, but for healing trauma and self-esteem. There were loads of books which I can add into the notes if I can figure out how. And yeah, it just functioning became my full-time job. basically. Everything I did was about healing. I don't want to say getting better, because I do not see ADHD as something that you should want to heal from in that sense. It's not a disease. I see it much more positively now, but at the time it was just about functioning and improving my life. Over the course of the rest of the year, things would get worse. My mental health really took a nosedive, and I ended up temporarily separating from my partner in the November of that year, I think it was. He moved out. So I really dived deeper into the personal development, the yoga, the nutrition. I had to fix myself because I had lost all sense of who I was. Everybody else's opinion of me was more important than my own. And so whenever anybody criticized me, even mildly, it was like my whole world was collapsing. I couldn't cope. I couldn't take anything. I was completely broken and completely lost. And I had to rebuild myself. So I spent the next 4 months even more intensely healing myself, more audiobooks of self-help, more yoga, more nutrition. Yeah, it was an intense journey. And actually, my partner was really supportive throughout. We separated, but we continued to work on things. And he worked on things too. We realized a lot of things about our relationship. It actually was the best thing that ever happened to our relationship, having some time apart. We came back together in the March of the following year. To add to the stress, when he moved out, I discovered that I was pregnant with my fourth baby. So I was facing trying to heal my mental health, trying to function better, trying to take care of the 3 kids I already had, with the prospect of being a single mom of 4. So that was really tough. Like I said, we moved back in together the March of the following year. Things have been incredible ever since. Obviously, we've had our challenges, but we know how to overcome them now. So that was a really messy journey. The diet and lifestyle really made a difference, and the self-help books, and I have continued to progressively improve since. This was back in 2016. We moved back in together in 2017, and I have not stopped working on myself since. And maybe that sounds like a lot of work, but it is work that I am deeply passionate about and I think is so worth the work. For a long time, I was keto and paleo. That is incredible for brain health. It reduces inflammation, stabilizes your blood sugar, and supports healthy neurotransmitter production. And so once you get all of those things in line, your brain can function at its best and you can function at your best. And it improves your mood, it improves your sleep. It's really amazing. I no longer eat that way. In November last year, I actually went carnivore for 8 weeks. That was incredible because I'd suffered with binge eating on and off for years. The going carnivore just quietened the food noise. It helped me heal my gut. It helped me heal my brain even more. And it enabled me to start gradually expanding my diet. So I went from carnivore for 8 weeks to keto for 4 weeks, paleo for 2 weeks, and now I eat as close to a kind of high protein Mediterranean diet as I can. I actually managed to heal my gluten intolerance through doing this. So that was amazing because I've always really enjoyed things like sourdough bread, and whole grains even used to upset me, but I can tolerate those now. And so just a bit of a side note here, this is not me saying you need to do the exact same thing. I'm not giving you any medical advice, but this is what's worked really well for me. But what I do want you to get from this is how powerful nutrition is for your brain. Whatever way you go with that, it can make a massive difference. As far as the yoga goes, people always tell you to meditate and do mindfulness, not realizing how difficult that is for ADHD. We can't just sit still and meditate. That's almost painful for us, especially if you're hyperactive. And so yoga for me became a way that I could meditate without having to stay still. You're moving with the breath, you're working your body quite hard. You look at yoga and think it's easy, but it's actually really challenging. But because you're working with the breath at the same time, it calms your mind. But your body is moving, so you're not feeling restless. It's incredible. I'd recommend it to anybody. I actually qualified as a yoga teacher a year or so ago because it was so powerful for me. I now prioritize weightlifting. That's my favorite kind of exercise to do. I'm in the gym as often as I can be. My moods are stable. Obviously, I get overwhelmed and overstimulated. I'm still ADHD. It hasn't gone, but it's very manageable now. I get distracted, but I'm okay with it. I forget things, but I'm okay with it. I've really learned over the years to stop fighting my ADHD, because the more you fight it, the harder it gets to manage. And so the more you can accept who you are, as much as you might not want to, the more you can prioritize your health, your sleep, your nutrition, your fitness, practicing self-care and stress management, and being around people who really embrace you for who you are. Like, there's nobody now who I have around me who doesn't believe in ADHD or thinks it's an excuse or thinks you just need to try harder. Like, I've chosen my people very carefully so that I don't have to constantly be explaining myself and fighting who I am and trying to get them to accept me. And so it's been a really long journey. I am now 10 years post-diagnosis. I'm hoping it won't take that long for you, hopefully, with this podcast. And if you get my help or somebody else's help and you find a way to make things work for you, it doesn't have to take as long as it did for me. I was really going it alone. It was a really challenging time, but I wouldn't change it because it's really helped me grow as a person. I was forced to face my shadows and my demons and my trauma and all the ways I was the toxic one, not because of my ADHD, but just because I was, and to improve and grow. And so I'm really actually proud of that journey. I'm proud of who I've become. I would not be the person I am today. I wouldn't be a coach. I wouldn't be a nutritionist. I wouldn't be a fitness trainer. I wouldn't be the kind of level-headed person I am now if it wasn't for that journey. So I am insanely grateful for it. And what I really want you to take from this is that if you are awaiting diagnosis, or if you've had your diagnosis but you can't medicate, or maybe you don't want to medicate, that there are still ways that you can help yourself. Whether you're diagnosed or not, whether you're medicated or not, taking control of your life, building the life that makes you happy, prioritizing your health, these are all ways that you can get your ADHD in control, and you can start to see the strengths that it brings to your life. You may not believe me right now, and that's okay, but there are many strengths from ADHD, and the less you fight it, the more they will shine through. The more you take care of your health, the less your challenges will challenge you, and the more that your strengths will shine through. So I hope that this episode has given you some hope that things get to be good, because they really do get to be so good. I know that ADHD can feel really disabling when it's out of control, but on the other side of that is a life where you wouldn't change your ADHD because it brings you so many qualities. And that will be discussed in future episodes as well. There's a lot for us to talk about here. But I hope this was helpful. This is episode number 1 of the Is It Me or ADHD podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do provide your feedback for me. What was helpful, what you want to learn about next, what support you need, any questions you've got, and I will try and include them in future episodes. So thank you for listening. See you next time.